Dr. Stetzer, you've been one of the signers to the Evangelical Immigration Table's Statement of Principles for Immigration Reform. Many of us are pleased to see the White House in this last week released kind of a framework for dreamers. And we're especially glad it outlines, I think most of us in the immigration advocacy world, that it outlines a path to citizenship for most of those, and it's a good starting point for Congress to work. And it's, I think most of us would agree, it's been well past a permanent solution. When it comes to immigration dialogue in our country, particularly right now when Dreamers is at the forefront of that discussion, why is it important to not find our identity in a position politically, but how would you as a pastor kind of lead your flock and evangelicals to speak more to this issue?
Well, we have we have lots of people in our church and other churches that would be undocumented, and so I think the reality is recognize these are people we're talking about. Now, let me say in regards to DACA, the Dreamers, that regrettably we're in a situation that you can't avoid the politics of it. Now, it's probably important to note that President Trump, I don't think it would be a stretch to say has been far more anti-immigrant than his predecessors. President Trump has actually expressed desire to address this issue to the point where he actually talked about a path to citizenship, which has sort of really infuriated some of his more vehement anti-immigrant base. What I would say is all of us can recognize this should be a no-brainer. All of us can recognize that the Dreamers have been, just for those who may not know, have been brought to this country not of their own will. Their parents brought them over. They're certainly here thus illegally. People sometimes are afraid to use that word, but let's say what it is. But the reality is they didn't commit the crime. And this is the only country they've ever known. And they're in my church and they're in your church. So again, I think this is an easy, and here you actually have President Trump. Now again, the politics of this are tricky because President Obama sort of put down this original DACA, and there wasn't a congressional process and all. So Congress needs to step up. Congress needs to step up. Congress needs to find a path forward. Now, what bothers me, just to be honest, is I don't want to see these Dreamers used as bargaining chips. Well, we'll see what we'll let in and what we won't based on what you'll give us. I get that there are actually real issues of border and security and immigration, and I think Christians can and will disagree and debate those things. I think Christians can and will disagree about how to deal with people who are here, who are undocumented, even the children who did not come over by their own volition, but this is the only country they've ever known. But I think ultimately we need to speak differently. There's some of this rhetoric towards immigrants is just disheartening and untrue. But I think at the same time, this is sort of a no-brainer politically, is that here you've got a president who ran in large measure on a platform that was concerned about immigration, saying, we need to fix this. There's some great people here. There's a path to citizenship. Congress needs to step up. We're in the midst of a negotiation. I don't want people used as bargaining chips. I know, particularly one who I know pretty well. Every day they don't know, and that's not a way to live. We can do better as a country. But here's one, again, politically, we can speak into the issue with our representatives and say, here's an area where you literally have a president who ran on a increasingly anti-immigration platform say, let's find a pathway to citizenship. So what I would say is, even if you're very anti-immigration, which my guess is you're not if you're watching this video, but maybe you'll share it with somebody who is, the president has said, let's find a pathway to citizenship. So this should be a no-brainer. Let's speak into this. Let's encourage our churches to speak into this as well. It's an issue of people who are afraid, and people, this is the only country they've ever known. Let's do what I think is the right thing.